We are at the beginning of one of the largest experiments ever conducted on this planet. 5G is being rolled out across the globe, and no one really knows what the consequences of this are likely to be. The title of my talk is Discussing the 5G Experiment. I bring this information to you both as a research scientist, as I do research on the biological effects of electromagnetic pollution, and as a teacher, since I've been teaching about this subject for the past 25 years at Trent University. What is 5G? 5G refers to fifth generation communication technology. It allows for faster connectivity. 1G provided voice, 2G provided text, 3G allowed us to connect to the internet, 4G allowed us to download videos, 5G will allow for technology that communicates at the speed of light with fast, almost instantaneous download speeds. It will allow for the Internet of Things and will go well beyond cell phones and their applications. How does 5G differ from other wireless technology? It's important to note that 5G will not replace 4G. It will be in addition to all other frequencies currently generated, which means we will have more exposure to microwave radiation once 5G is activated. 5G will use several frequency bands in the low, mid, and high band frequencies. The high band consists of millimeter waves that we will discuss in more detail later. 5G also means the densification of small cell antennas in urban and rural areas. A small cell will be placed on lampposts or telephone poles every 100 to 300 meters, depending on location. What do we know about the 5G infrastructure? The infrastructure will consist of satellites, macro cell sites, small cells in front of homes, and fiber optics. Fiber optics are the safest as they don't emit radiation. My colleagues who know more about satellites than I do tell me this is a relatively safe technology, provided the exposures are low. However, if the intensity is increased, satellites could be weaponized. Macro cells are dangerous if you live near them. The greatest concern is the small cell antenna in front of your home, as this is going to be difficult, if not impossible, to avoid. There will be winners and losers with 5G. Some people are going to make a lot of money, and some people are going to become very ill because of the massive amount of additional data that is going to be generated. 50 trillion gigabytes of data converts to exposure. Why is the government not putting on the brakes? In 2015, the Federal Communication Commission made $45 billion selling a part of the wireless spectrum. The government didn't want to put a ban on tobacco sales because they were receiving a lot of money from tobacco taxes. The same seems to be the case with wireless. Why should we be concerned about 5G? We have no long-term testing of the biological and health effects of millimeter waves, yet we are going to expose the entire planet to these frequencies. This really doesn't make any sense. 2G, 3G, and 4G frequencies are already causing adverse biological and health effects to humans and other living organisms. We are learning about the health effects as we document the cancers, the damage to sperm, and the harmful effects on plants and animals. Our love affair with wireless started with the cell phone in the early 1990s. And while we have a choice as to whether we use a cell phone or not, we don't have a choice as to where the cell phone antennas are placed. We have a choice about Wi-Fi in the home, but no choice about Wi-Fi in the schools. Children are being exposed to microwave radiation for 6 hours every school day without parental approval. Most of us have no choice about smart meters placed on our homes or smart appliances and their radio frequency chips they contain. And now we have thousands of satellites being deployed and small cell antennas being placed in our neighborhoods with no choice regarding their placement. Why should we be concerned about 5G? Because it means more radiation, and it means we have no choice in the matter. How much radiation can the human body tolerate? On this map, you can see some purple spots that represent Wi-Fi hotspots in 2002. These were mostly at universities, research institutions, and military installations. We have moved from very little Wi-Fi radiation in 2002 to almost global coverage in just 16 years. What are the key concerns about wireless smart technology? By the way, smart refers to two-way communication. It does not need to be wireless. We're concerned about human health effects, addiction, social skills, safety, security, privacy, effects on flora and fauna, energy consumption, and global warming. I want to divert to an issue of privacy for a minute. In China, students wear these wireless headbands that monitor brainwave activity. The colors determine if the student is focused or distracted. This information is sent to the teacher's iPad and the parent's iPhone. One student was interviewed who said that he gets into trouble if he's distracted in class. The problem is these devices emit microwave radiation, and the radiation may make it hard for some students to pay attention, especially if they're electrically hypersensitive. In some schools, students have jackets with RF sensors to determine where they are at all times. China also uses facial recognition inside buildings as well as on the street. And you can now make purchases with facial recognition rather than with credit cards or money. And for those who think this can't happen in North America, think again. Schools in New York want to install facial recognition to prevent mass shootings and other disruptions in the school. San Francisco is one of the first United States cities to ban facial recognition. Dr. Cindy Russell reviewed the literature on millimeter waves, which is part of the 5G rollout, as it relates to public health and the environment. And this is what she found. Millimeter waves have been used to reduce pain in Eastern European health studies. This is good. Millimeter waves are also used as part of the active denial system for crowd control. This is also good, better than being shot, for example. Millimeter waves are proposed for the Internet of Things, but this is not a good use of the technology. The reason is duration of exposure. With medical and military exposure, the duration is measured in seconds and minutes. When telecommunications, it is constant exposure 24/7, and this is what makes it potentially harmful. Millimeter waves are not supposed to penetrate deeply into the skin, so the skin surface, and particularly the sweat glands, are the targets for millimeter waves. The skin is one of the largest organs and separates us from the environment. Systemic signaling is embedded in the skin that connects to the nervous system, the immune system, and the hormonal system. So there is a possibility of considerable damage being caused at the skin surface. Some frequencies cause arrhythmia or an irregular heartbeat, and eyes are known to be very sensitive to this radiation, resulting in cataracts and other ocular pathologies with prolonged exposure. We have evidence that the immune system is impaired in laboratory studies with mice. There are teratogenic or birth defects among fruit flies, and we have evidence for antibiotic resistance caused by millimeter waves. For those who have not watched the 5G Crisis Summit, I strongly encourage you to get copies of the 40 interviews with the experts around the world. These include scientists, doctors, engineers, lawyers, politicians, and activists. Cost of the series is reasonable. In this summit, several of the people mentioned the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code is part of the international humanitarian law that states it is unethical and illegal to perform experiments on humans without their informed consent. According to this law, 5G should be illegal as people are not giving their informed consent to be exposed to this radiation. Why are these products allowed? Here we have a diaper that will alert the mother's iPhone that when the diaper is wet. This exposes the infant to microwave radiation. Here we have a pacifier that has a thermometer inside and sends information about the infant's temperature to the parent's iPhone. So we now have an RF emitting device inside the head of an infant. Who is regulating this industry? What did German doctors do during the Holocaust? They sterilized millions of their citizens. The excuse for doing nothing was, It's too horrific to believe this is happening. We were just following orders. Refusal meant instant death. What are the side effects of microwave radiation? Damage to sperm, leading to infertility and ultimately to sterility. The excuse for doing nothing? I didn't know it was harmful. I don't believe it's harmful. I'm just one person. What can I do? I'm past reproductive age. What do I care? Which of these excuses will you find acceptable when you discover you are unable to have grandchildren? Here we have 4 slides of human sperm. Some of the sperm were unexposed controls, and some were exposed to 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same frequency used in Wi-Fi. The slides are based on 1 and 5 hour exposure. You can see the sperm moving well in all of the slides except for the bottom right slide. This slide was exposed to Wi-Fi radiation for 5 hours. Most people will work on their laptop computers connected by Wi-Fi to the internet for much longer periods, and they are probably damaging their sperm as a consequence. The health effects of radio frequency fall into 3 categories. Reproductive problems that I just mentioned. These include miscarriages as well as developmental and behavioral problems in offspring. Cancers, mostly associated with the head, but also breast cancer for women who keep their cell phones in their bra, and leukemia for people who happen to live near cell phone antennas, and electrohypersensitivity or EHS. And you can see some of the more common symptoms here: sleep disorders, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, poor memory, depression, anxiety, etc. What is the evidence for electrohypersensitivity? I'm going to provide 2 provocation studies. These are studies testing the effects of microwave exposure on the blood and on the heart. Provocation test number 1. Microwave radiation affects the blood of some people who have electrohypersensitivity. Here we take a drop of blood, put it on a slide, and view it under the microscope. The top slide shows my blood before I was exposed to Wi-Fi. The cells are round and free-floating in small, loose groupings. The slide at the bottom shows what happens to my blood when I spend 10 minutes exposed to Wi-Fi. Every cell on the slide is sticking together. This type of blood is unable to efficiently deliver oxygen and nutrients to cells and get rid of waste products produced by cells. And it's called rouleau formation. Dr. Stephen Sinatra, a world-renowned cardiologist, says that our blood should have the consistency of red wine. Instead, most of us have blood with the consistency of ketchup flowing through our veins. This is rouleau formation. Symptoms include headaches, fatigue, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, numbness, tingling and cold extremities, heart and blood pressure problems, and in severe cases, heart attacks and strokes. In this provocation study, we asked the question, does radiation from a cordless phone affect the heart? As soon as you plug a cordless phone base station into an electric outlet, the phone sends out microwave radiation. This was a double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Neither the person being tested nor the doctor assessing the results knew when exposures were taking place. Here we have one example showing real-time monitoring. A 56-year-old woman was exposed to the radiation from the cordless phone during sessions 3 and 5 in this experiment. You can see her heart rate increases during exposure from 65 to 86 beats per minute and returns to normal once the cell phone is unplugged. All of these changes in heart rate are also showing as changes in heart rate variability. There is an upregulation of her sympathetic nervous system and a downregulation of her parasympathetic nervous system, which is a typical stress response, and the body does not function well under chronic stress. Students at a school in Simcoe County started to complain of various health effects shortly after the school installed Wi-Fi. Several complained of heart palpitations that were experienced only at school. 4 students experienced sudden cardiac arrest, 2 of which were fatal. The youngest child was only 13 years old. As a solution, the school installed defibrillators. Fact: microwave workers are experiencing heart problems. Research published in 1969 showed that those occupationally exposed to microwave radiation experienced heart problems. So, in the interest of occupational hygiene, researchers have recommended that cardiovascular abnormalities be used as a screening criteria to exclude people from occupations involving radiofrequency exposure. Perhaps students should be screened for an underlying heart condition that could be made worse with Wi-Fi exposure. How many people have electrohypersensitivity? Between 1 and 5% of the population is severely affected by electrosmog, and these people are often confined to their homes and become quite ill when traveling, shopping, going to restaurants. I use 3% to represent these individuals. Another 35% of the population has mild to moderate sensitivity. They can still function in an exposed setting, but often feel lethargic, have brain fog, and otherwise feel subnormal. With these percentages, we have approximately 1 million people in Canada with severe sensitivity, 10 million in the United States, and 15 million in the European Union. These numbers are likely to increase following the rollout of 5G. One comment I sometimes hear is, if this were true, they would have told us. A publication in 1971 cited over 2,000 papers on the harmful effects of microwave radiation. More recently, in 2015, 248 scientists from 42 countries signed an international scientist EMF appeal that was sent to the World Health Organization and the United Nations Environmental Program with warnings about exposure to microwave radiation. Manufacturers are warning about keeping wireless devices away from the body, and insurance companies are not insuring against health effects caused by radiofrequency radiation. Medical academies are warning that guidelines are inadequate to protect children against radiofrequency radiation, and various governments around the globe are banning Wi-Fi in schools and are hardwiring schools with fiber optics, which are faster, safer, and much more secure than Wi-Fi. They are telling us we aren't listening. As elected officials, mayors and councillors have a responsibility to their community. It's critical that members of municipal governments learn as much as possible about 5G. Telecom providers will ask for permission to place small cells on lampposts and on other public property. Municipal governments do not have to approve of locations for small cell antennas. They will be overruled by the federal government. However, should scientific evidence of harm be provided in the coming years, at least they will not be complicit in the decision to expose the public. Legal action is likely in the near future. Some municipalities are requesting the following: annual review of contracts for the location of small cell sites, ability to have small cells removed with no legal penalty should the science indicate harm, regular monitoring of exposure before and after small cells are installed, establishment of a health registry for reporting adverse biological and health effects associated with 5G antennas that also involves investigation of the complaint in a timely fashion. Wait a minute, something feels wrong. Warning, cliff ahead. They're not listening. More videos are being produced on 5G technology. Here are 3 videos that I encourage you to watch. The first provides technical information about 5G that is easy to understand. Video 2 contradicts some of the information in video 1. As Verizon tests its rollout of 5G, 5G performs much better than expected. Video 3 is a long video where the former Federal Communication Commission chair speaks about 5G. This video provides an excellent insight about who is running the show and what their views are on health effects. please share this video with those concerned about 5G technology. Thank you for watching.